So everyone, and welcome. Now the fourth episode is aired and we've done the regular review. It's time for the spoiler review, so we're gonna see spoilers for the North American and the Japanese version of the Magia record game. So first off, let's head right in there with what the game actually did in the same parts of the story. So we start out with Iroha having trouble to find info on what was going on with the rumors with Ui, with Nemu and Toka, and so she asks Team Kamori for help and they meet up at a McDonald's. And they talk once again about what happened last time with the staircase Uwasa that they just defeated, and they notice that, oh, that was probably not a witch. And Iroha then at this point realizes that Ui might be trapped in a rumor that, similarly to the staircase rumor, also traps people. So she wants to keep investigating rumor just in case she finds a rumor where Ui is trapped. We then see another very short hospital flashback with the trio where they talk about how important imagination and fantasy is, and that's basically it. They just basically want to make sure that you remember that Ui, Nemu and Toka, they still all exist somehow, somewhere. And at the end, we then see Team Kamori talk a little bit more about specific other rumors that have appeared in the surrounding area, because rumors are going to be a lot more important going forward from now on. Then in the next part, Iroha then visits Mitama, and we also see that Yacho is right there, who is still an abrasive bitch, basically, and she still is not actually that forthcoming or being friendly or nice or anything like that. She basically just wants to get out and not have to deal with anything. And Mitama is there though, and Mitama is a lot more friendly and nice and probably doesn't want to loot anyone present. And she tells Iroha about a rumor involving a shrine somewhere in Mizuna. And Iroha then goes and visits the Mizuna ward, where she goes to the school there, and she asks a bunch of people about some shrine rumor. They're being rather vague here because they don't really know what they're dealing with. They just know there is some shrine with some rumor somewhere, so just go ask around and see if you can find out anything. So Iroha doesn't find anything, and this is something now at this point that we're going to see a lot more, and we've already seen a bunch where the story kind of realizes that we're not quite sure where we're actually going, because Iroha is trying to find information, but she can't really find information anywhere, and so she just randomly shouts, "I need help," and then randomly someone appears and gives her help. In this case, it's Tsuruno. You might be thinking, like, isn't that kind of a big coincidence that this stuff keeps happening, where they really have no idea what they're doing, and then suddenly, randomly, when it seems like they have nothing to do, randomly a plot thread appears that brings the story rolling again? This happens all the time. So Tsuruno then tells Iroha about how dangerous rumors are, and she basically keeps talking and talking and talking, and at the end Tsuruno then tells Iroha about the Seance Shrine rumor, and they end up teaming up in order to find the specific shrine where the Seance Shrine rumor is active. We then also see another scene where Iroha is not actually present, which also happens sometimes, that you see scenes where Iroha isn't present, but I think in the anime Iroha is pretty much always present in every scene somewhere. So Mitama talks to Yacho about the rumor, and that's basically it. They just talk about the rumor a bit, and Iroha, or rather Yacho, also wants to investigate the rumor. And there is a very short reference to Iroha's soul gem slowly darkening and corrupting, which is going to keep happening over the course of this chapter. I'm going to talk about this later again when I talk about the anime, but throughout this entire chapter in the game, they repeatedly tell you, hey, the soul gem is darkening, the soul gem is slowly getting corrupted all the time. So then in the next part, we see that Tsuruno and Iroha, they're looking around for shrines. They basically go all around the city, trying to look for any shrine they can and trying to somehow get the rumor to activate. So at this point, Tsuruno then tells the story of these lovers. And it's similar to the story that we see in the anime, but it's a lot more simple and short in the game, which is weird because in the game they have a lot more time to flesh everything out, but they totally don't. They basically just go, yeah, there were two lovers, the guy dies and the woman finds a paper that leads to a location where she finds him again, but he's a ghost. That's basically the entire rumor, or not the rumor, but the entire legend about that. And apparently that location where she ended up meeting again, that's like a big matchmaking point, or as they call it in the anime, the marriage power point, I think it is, or whatever. So they want to find both the shrine, and they also want to find out more about the legend, because this legend also has the stamp card. They just randomly have a stamp card that leads you around these areas that have to do with the legend. So Tsuruno then goes and looks for shrines around the city, while Iroha says, I'm gonna go around and do the stamp collecting quests, and they split up at that point. And Iroha is still completely terrible with technologies, so she has trouble dealing with a mobile phone. So then she goes out with the stamp card and she goes through all these different locations and she gathers all the stamps until at the end she has all the stamps together, and now she's trying to find out where the secret location is. But it turns out there's two types of stamp cards, type A and type B, and you need to have both of them in order to be able to reach the final location. And it turns out she only has one of them, the A version. If only there was a second person who had the B card. And Yachio shows up, who randomly has the B card, because like I told you before, the story will just randomly stop and then instantly throw a random thing, anything, in front of Iroha, and then the story just continues. So Yachio just randomly appears and is like, I'm also doing stamp collecting for no reason, because I don't have to answer that question. And this is also something that we're gonna see like 10 times throughout this entire chapter, where Iroha is trying to get an answer from Yachio. Yachio is just like, I don't have to answer that question. I'm not even kidding, it's just like 10 times or something throughout this chapter. So Yachio has the card B and Iroha has card A, and they're like, you know what, let's just do this together, because why not? So they begrudgingly team up together because they kind of have to. Not because they want to, but because they have to. So they kind of get forced into it. So Yachio has been writing the Kamihama rumor files, where she compiles all the information about all the different rumors in Kamihama, and Iroha instead has something of her own that we're gonna see. So Yachio finds Iroha's notebook, but we don't get to see quite what that is yet, but Iroha has been writing in that notebook. So after they team up, they go and visit Mizuna Shrine, where the secret location apparently is, according to that legend, with these lovers. But they find out that there's not really anything special going on there with the Uwasa or a rumor. They just find, yeah, okay, that's the end of the stamp card collecting, and there's like an event where they go to, and they say, congratulations, you've collected all of the stamp, and you found the correct spot. So they find some person, tells them about this, and they go, okay, but if you want the reward for having done the stamp collection, which is like a friendship charm or whatever, or marriage charm, or some matchmaking charm, I think, and they go, if you want the reward, you have to do one last step, which is you have to confess your feelings to each other. And Yachio is like, I'm leaving, and Iroha is like, oh, actually I kind of like Yachio, and Yachio is like, oh, I also kind of like you too, and we already see that the game is shipping these two really fucking hard, even though all this entire time Yachio has basically been a villain who kind of wants to attack the protagonist at every point. Now she's suddenly nice and friendly, and apparently has some feelings for Iroha. I mean, they sort of like really pushed this really hard in the game. So they get the matchmaking charm or whatever, and then they leave, and it turns out that that book that Iroha had, that she was writing into, is the Kamihama mystery book, because she has been copying Yachio. She said, Yachio, you're doing the Kamihama rumor files, I'm gonna do the Kamihama mystery book, because she kind of idolizes Yachio to some degree as well. And Yachio is like, oh, that's so cute, I'm a good guy now, at least to some degree. So then Iroha reports everything that has happened to Tsuruno, and on the way home, Iroha realizes that there's a shrine atop an abandoned building or something. This like also comes out of nowhere. She just randomly sees a shrine on top of a building. It's like, I've never seen this shrine before. Maybe this is the Seance shrine. So then next day, Iroha goes there, and Tsuruno's off doing some other stuff with some other shrines somewhere. And Iroha, while trying to go up that building to find that shrine on top of that building, she comes across the witch Candy, that we also see in the anime as well. So she fights Candy, but she has trouble. She can't quite fight the witch. And then Yachio appears, and they both fight together. Now then, some guy is just randomly there who's like has a witch kiss or whatever, and they're like, we have to save this guy. Both say it at once, as in like, oh wow, we've been thinking the same thing. So they both save the guy, and then they're like, what do we do next? And then also both at the same time go, now we have to chase the witch. Completely in sync, as if they're already married. So they go after the witch again, and the witch is now at the supermarket. And at the supermarket, Yachio realizes, oh my god, it's 10 points day, and they're also having a time sale. So they realize that the time sale is really important, and they should probably go and get all the points they can get during the time sale. And they also realize that the witch is there, because the witch also wants 10 times the points. Or maybe the witch is also just there because there's a lot of people there, but let's just assume the witch also just wants the 10 points, 10 times as many points. So they attack Candy together in tandem with a combination attack that only a trained team could do together. And they defeat Candy, and they once again show that Iroha's soul gem is getting clouded and it's getting impure. And Yachio even notices this and goes, hey, you should really use this grief seed because your soul gem is getting clouded. And Iroha is like, I'm fine, I'm going to use it later. Definitely not foreshadowing, wink wink, definitely not having to worry about my soul gem, dark. This is so weird that we, not just us, but also Yachio and Iroha all realize we should probably get the soul gem cleansed because something bad is about to happen. And Hiro's just like, nah. He just goes, nah. That's some writing right there. So at this point, Yachio then realizes, actually, timing is really important. Because the time sale only was at a specific timing. Wait a second, timing. The shrine probably only appears, if it has to do with the legend, it probably only appears at night. Oh, we haven't been to Mizuna Shrine at night yet, and nothing happened at all the other times, so we're gonna have to go there at night. So they actually do go back to Mizuna Shrine, and at this point you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, there was this shrine atop a building. What was the deal with that shrine that wasn't on any map and that no one knew about? Yeah, it never gets brought up again. It just gets completely dropped. There was just a shrine atop a building, they try to go there, witch appears, they fight the witch, and then realize it's Mizuna Shrine, and go back to Mizuna Shrine. I don't even know what's going on sometimes. In case you haven't picked it up yet, the writing quality for the story in the game is a bit all over the place. There are some scenes that are pretty cool, but the actual logical through line and just in general, there's a lot of plot holes and just random stuff happening for seemingly no reason. It's all over the place. So they go back to Mizuna Shrine, or rather they want to go back to Mizuna Shrine, but they want to go back there when it's nighttime, and they wait to team up the next day, at least I think it's the next day, where Iroha brings someone else along who is going to help Yachio and everyone to get to the bottom of the rumor, and it's Tsuruno. So Tsuruno gets brought along, and now the trio is finally together at the end. No, not quite at the end of this chapter, but more towards the later parts of the chapter. This is the first time the three of them actually meet up together, while in the anime it happened rather soon, that all three met up together. And there's also a few hints right here about Yachio's past, especially involving Mifuyu, and we actually see Mifuyu in some vision already, so we kind of have an idea of what's gonna happen. So the three of them, after having met up, they all go to Mizuna Shrine at night, but actually before that happened, Iroha goes to Mitama to meet Tsuruno, because this can't be that simple, they have to go to Mitama again. I don't know why they keep going to Mitama all the time. Like every second scene that happens is some character is at Mitama's talking. I think we've seen Mitama like twice, or actually 3 times in the anime, but in the game we've already seen it like 15 times already. Or like in 15 different scenes. So yeah, so like I said, they do meet up, and Yachio is like, Tsuruno is like, I don't know if we should meet up with Tsuruno, maybe not the best idea to bring Tsuruno around, but yeah, whatever, we're just gonna do it, because the more the better, right? Strength in numbers. And after they arrive at Mizuna Shrine, they enter, And they go like, oh no, isn't it a bad thing to enter the shrine at night because we shouldn't be here? It's trespassing. But yeah, whatever. Who cares about trespassing? So after they've entered the shrine, Yachiyo then says, okay, we're gonna write our names down. And yeah, Tsuruno, I didn't bring a plaque for you, so sucks to be you, eh? So Tsuruno kind of gets left out on purpose because Yachiyo is like, it's probably better if she's not with us. And they randomly bring up that Tsuruno is good at school for some reason. They're just like, hey, by the way, I'm good at school. Yeah, okay, we did need to know that, but yeah, sure, whatever you say. Because he's also the mightiest at school. He's the mightiest at everything, apart from good food, that is. So Iroha and Yachiyo, they trigger the rumor while Tsuruno goes fights some minions. So basically the same part happens here. Tsuruno fights some minions, Iroha and Yachiyo, they trigger the rumor, and Yachiyo and Iroha get sucked into the Uwasa labyrinth. And this is where I think it is, yeah. So in the game, the chapter 3 that we're on right now has 7 parts, and this was the end of the 5th part. There's only 2 more parts after, so we've already gone through 5/7 of this entire chapter at this point. So you see, there was a lot of stuff happening, but it was so spread out and so needlessly elongated by random stuff. People going there, people splitting up, meeting up again, going to talk to Mitama again for some reason, Yachiyo refusing to answer any question. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of chaos, a lot of random stuff. It's quite a mess. It's quite a mess in the game, mostly because I guess they felt like they had to just get the time stretched out enough for it to be 7 parts of this chapter. I'm not quite sure. So now that we've gone through the game, it's about time we look at what the anime did. So the anime starts with Iroha already being at Banbansai, Banbansai didn't actually appear in the game at all at this point. So she's at Banbansai, and we see Tsuruno's dad also as well. And fun little fact, the attack sounds that Tsuruno makes are actually her in-game attack sounds. That's pretty cool. So Iroha then, in the next scene, she talks about how she doesn't have any close friends, about how she is suffering because of that, which is also something that we see later on as well, that she's talking about this. And now she's at Mitama's with Kamore, who in the game they were at McDonald's, but here she is once again at Mitama's, and so we get to see Mitama again. And this is all we get to see of Mitama in this entire episode, which is okay. We don't need to go to Mitama's every second scene. So they talk once again about what happened in the last episode, about how they fought the staircase rumor, about how it wasn't a witch, about how something weird was going on. And importantly, we get to see something that once again is part of some side story or some backstory, but because we don't have time for that, we have to somehow visually show that in the anime. And it's the fact that Mitama apparently has no taste buds and has the weirdest ideas about cooking and food. In the game, she has this side story where she tries to cook for Felicia and Kyoko. Yes, the Kyoko. And they watch her cooking, and she has a knife, and they just say, oh my god, we almost died because we didn't see it happen why, but randomly the knife just flew at us, bounced around the room, and lodged itself into the ceiling. And then she used paint, actual paint, to paint the food. Stuff like that. So Mitama's cooking is absolutely the stuff of legends in the worst way possible. And we kind of see some of that here in the anime, where she puts ketchup, sprinkles, I think sprinkles are fine, on a cake and then tops it off with a plum. People thought it was like a meatball, but no, it's the plum. And she puts on top of the cake and then she eats it and she's fine. I guess being a magical girl also means that you can eat anything and you don't get sick. Probably. So yeah, Team Kamore wants to help a bit more as Iroha brings up that Ui might also be trapped in some rumor somewhere that traps people, as all the other people also talk more about some rumors. I think the rumors that they talk about, like the rumor that Kai talks about, are different rumors than they talk about in the game. In the game, they also talk about a rumor about a guy who's dancing in a public space, and he's called Dancing Daddy. And then they're like, oh no, that's not a rumor, that's actually a guy doing that, and the school warned us of him, making a little joke there. But here in the anime, they talk about some other rumors, and they want to help Iroha find Ui. But Iroha is like, no, you've already helped me enough. And besides, I'm not quite sure what to do and where to go, and this might take some time. So this might be the last time we see Kamore do anything significant for a whole bunch of time. If you're an anime-only person, for some reason watching this and getting spoiled, you might have been thinking that Team Kamore is probably very important to the story. But no, this is the last time they do anything rather important until like way later. I mean, you could write them out of the story at this point, and the main story barely changes, because from now on we only do stuff with Yachio and Yachio's gang. So say goodbye to Team Kamore. It was nice having them around, but their usefulness is over. So Mitama advertises Banbansai. I assume that this is something that Mitama does more regularly, because Mitama is the kind of person who likes to do some deals with people, as in like, hey, I advertise your shop and therefore you do something for me. Stuff like that. Nothing sinister. She just likes to engage with people in that sense as well. So I assume she maybe thought to herself like, hey, maybe if I advertise for Tsuruno, she's going to do something for me later. Who knows? So she advertises Banbansai as a place to eat, as a place to stay, maybe get some information, pretty much anything. It's a good place to go to as a magical girl in Kamihama. So she goes there and she meets with Tsuruno at Banbansai instead of randomly on the street, because in the game she just randomly shouted, I need information because I'm stuck at night on the street. And then Tsuruno just poofs into existence, as if the writer sort of went, we have nothing to do and nowhere to go, so Tsuruno's there. In here it actually makes more logical sense, and it's more of a reasonable connection between scenes, because in the game it was all just a complete chaotic mess. But here it's like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense, because they knew with Team Kamore, they knew Mitama, they had this connection with Mitama and adjusting, and it makes sense that Mitama would advertise Banbansai if she realizes that Iroha was going to stay in Kamihama for longer periods of time, because Banbansai is kind of the place that almost any magical girl kind of knows about. So she's like, hey, you should also know about this place. So there's more of a logical through line between scenes here. So after having met Tsuruno in there, she then gets to see the mediocrity of Banbansai, and they do the 50 points gag, which, by the way, originally came from the gag manga, the 4-koma manga. Not actually 4-koma, it has some 4-koma elements. Magia report, illustrated by a Papa. So that gag was originally from there. They've since included it in some parts of the game as well, and now they've also included it in the anime, so Papa is probably feeling pretty good about himself at this point, having brought this joke into both the game, maybe the manga even as well, and now the anime. And also something to note is they kind of, when Iroha talks to Tsuruno, or at least they don't do it on screen, but they kind of hint that she talked about finding Ui to Tsuruno, while in the game it was pretty much always about the rumors. But here she's like, oh yeah, do you know anything about Ui? And Tsuruno was like, no. But if you need help with rumors, I got just the person for you. So once again, more of a logical through line on how everything fits together. Because of course Tsuruno knows that Yachio is looking into rumors. So she goes, oh yeah, rumors, if you need rumors, I have just the person to help you. So she calls Yachio, and the three of them meet up at this point, and they stay together for the rest of the episode instead of repeatedly splitting up and coming back together again. So after they all three meet up, they meet right next to Misana Shrine already, which is pretty interesting. And Yachio wants to leave because Yachio realizes, actually, Iroha? Nah, I don't really care about Iroha, and wants to leave at this point. It seems like she didn't really care that much about meeting Tsuruno. While in the game, it was shown that she really doesn't like hanging around with Tsuruno, because Tsuruno is just way too energetic for her to handle, and she kind of does random stuff. But in here, she's like, okay, yeah, whatever, it's fine meeting up with Tsuruno, but Iroha, nah, Iroha. But anyway, she gets sort of forced, or goaded rather, into hanging around, and they talk together about some more rumors, while some wheels are in the background, which already are foreshadowing the wheels that the next Uwasa is going to have, because the next Uwasa they're going to fight should be the Uwasa of the Majibito horse. or something like this. And that thing has wheels. So it's weird, not it's weird, it's cool that they already foreshadowed this with the wheels in the background. I think we see some wheels later on as well when they actually go to the shrine. So they do talk about the rumors a bit, and they open the Kamihama rumor files that Yachiyo has with her, and they read about the Seance Shrine rumor, because they were talking about rumors, I think, about, for one, recent rumors, and two, rumors that like trap people. So they talk about the Seance Shrine rumor, and they go into the details of it, and they already bring up the part about how the Seance Shrine rumor traps people. Because in the game, they kind of didn't actually know that the Seance Shrine rumor traps people. They kind of only at the very end, like before they head into the rumor itself, they go, oh, by the way, this thing traps people. Because all this time, it didn't, like Iroha said, I want to look into rumors that trap people. But she just sort of went after the shrine rumor because Mitama told her, hey, there's a shrine rumor, go look at the shrine rumor. Only later do they then go, oh yeah, it traps people as well. Isn't that funny that it actually kind of links up with what we're looking at? So they kind of bring that up, that part, but they don't really talk too much about it. They just sort of go, oh, yeah, that might be the rumor you're looking for, Iroha. We should probably investigate this. So they then bring up, or rather Tsuruno very energetically brings up, that it might actually just be Mizuna's shrine. Could be the Seian shrine, who knows? But Yachiyo says, no, that's a dud. Because it didn't work, and then they all go there and it really didn't work, and we see the scene of them actually going there and praying, which I don't think we specifically saw in the game, but it's not that it matters, it's a very short scene anyway. So then they go, okay, that didn't quite work out, we need another way to go, another way to search for more information, and they realize that at this, at the Mizuna Shrine, there's this event where you can gather stamps. And they're like, okay, we kind of want to walk around the city anyway and gather information, so we might as well do the stamp rally. And I mean, the stamp rally might actually be connected to the Seian Shrine, because at this point, Yachiyo then talks about the legend, and the legend is a little bit different. It's a lot more detailed, a lot more fleshed out, has a lot more nuance to it in the anime and all of the parts to it. And we also see that the team then runs around the city. We see some more funny in-between scenes. Tsuruno keeps being adorable as they talk about the legend, and we also see a very short scene of Manaka and Ria appearing. So Risa Salami appears, and she gets really mad at Yachiyo, and it kind of looks in the anime like she's getting mad at Iroha. But it's Yachiyo that she's mad at, because Yuria is someone who wished to be naturally beautiful because she wanted to be a model. And Yachiyo is someone who just is naturally beautiful and is also a model. And so she sees Yachiyo as a rival, especially because Yachiyo is just way more popular and successful as a model. So even though Ria specifically wished for this to be a natural beauty, to be someone who would be fitting for a model, she still is worse at doing that than Yachiyo, who just is good at it. So Ria is always really, really mad whenever she comes across Yachiyo, and the joke is that no one knows her name because Yachiyo always goes like, who even are you? What's your name? What's your name? Risa Salami? Princess Chia? No. Like, people keep forgetting her name because she's basically someone who gets made fun of all the time. She's the joke character that no one takes seriously, and even other characters completely get her name wrong all the time because they're like, who even is that? Who cares? Oh, Yachiyo, I know about Yachiyo. Isn't that the top model? Yeah, I know about Yachiyo. And that's why Ria is so mad about everything. And Manaka doesn't really have that much reason to be together with Ria. I mean, she's part of a group in the game. I'm just saying that in general, that pairing always struck me as a bit odd, because Manaka is someone who's rather serious about cooking and helping people through cooking, and she's easily the best chef in all of Kamihama. One of the only people who is actually a good chef, next to a whole bunch of other magical girls who also like cooking. They're all terrible at cooking. So yeah, Manaka also does the signature :3 face, the Owo face. So then, after this short little scene, they keep talking more about the legend, and we get some hints at Yachiyo having maybe had a sad past, about Yachiyo having maybe gone through some tragic stuff some time before the events of the anime. And we also see an additional scene right at the end of this where after Yachiro has talked about how nothing comes free, especially such a miracle, and you can't just sacrifice people for a miracle, we then see shadows of people who, if you're anime only people, you might have just assumed this is part of this legend still being told. But no, this is actually a foreshadowing, a really big foreshadowing for the antagonists of Magia Record, the Wings of Magius, because these are cultists of the Wings of Magius, black feathers to be exact, and these black feathers are being shown as Yachiro talks about sacrificing people for a great miracle, because that's exactly what the black feathers try to do, or in general what Wings of Magius try to do. They sacrifice people in order to redeem magical goods. That's basically their whole spiel. So already heavy foreshadowing with that, and after that we get a short little scene as well where Yachiro and Tsuruno just exchange a few words, and we get to see that there's some more hinting there of Yachiro and Tsuruno apparently having been good friends in the past, but something bad happened and they weren't friends anymore. Even though they're still quite friendly right now, they used to be really close, they even used to be in a team, but now, something happened. So then Iroha also talks once again about not having any close friends and being rather lonely because you only really had Ui, but Ui is not there anymore. And we also see this like wedding procession going on. Just shaft visual storytelling going on once again. So eventually they arrive back at Mizuna Shrine after having done the stamp and they realize, oh, it really is the Mizuna Shrine which is connected to the legend. Not that it matters, because they realize that, yeah, we've already been here and nothing happened, and now that we've done the stamp rally, it doesn't change anything, so I guess we're leaving again. So they leave again, and they were on their way home when they come across Time Sail. So they come across Time Sail again. And Yachiro really wants to shop together with everyone to get the most out of Time Sail. She wants the pasta. But then the witch Candy attacks, similarly as she did in the game, where she also attacked the supermarket during Time Sale. So they fight the witch, and the fight itself is quite a bit different in the game, because in the game it was a lot of bit of a back and forth until Yachiro and Iroha do the combination attack. In general, actually, in the game, Iroha does a lot more during fights and in between fights to facilitate victories. Like in the anime, she really just hangs around, tries to fight but fails. While in the game, she when the witch was running away, she basically threw a paintball, Monster Hunter out there, she threw a paintball at the witch and was like, now I can track the witch. And yet she was like, oh wow, that was actually rather smart. So Iroha in the game is actually rather smart when it comes to battles, and even though she's physically not very strong, she still tries really hard, and together with other people she actually gets stuff done. But in the anime, she at least tries in this battle. Like in this battle, she tries more than ever before, but still fails and doesn't really do anything. But it's okay, because she at least helped someone else win the battle when she connected with Tsuruno. Because Tsuruno is actually part of this fight now, which she wasn't in the game because she wasn't there. So Tsuruno is part of the fight now. She almost pulls a mummy by talking about how great everything is, and then in the background you see claws appear and almost smash her face in. But Tsuruno is way too mighty to fall to a witch or anything. So instead, Tsuruno fights back and gets connected with Iroha, and then Tsuruno does the rocket. Before, when we saw in episode 3, when Kaede and Dana connected, they both did their Magia. They did Infinite Poseidon into Judgment Earth. But here, Tsuruno rocket is not something that appears anywhere in the game. Because you might have been thinking, wow, I can't believe that in the game they had Tsuruno turn into a space rocket and fly off into space and then come back down again like a cruise missile. But no, that's anime original, and it's pretty good that that's anime original. Which completely destroys the witch. Also, something to note is something that we all have to be very sad about. We have to do a little F right here, F in the chat by the way, for Tsuruno. Tsuruno's spats are dead. Tsuruno is not wearing any spats anymore. Is she going commando? Who knows? I don't know why they removed those. Maybe they thought it was too sexual for her to have like spats that really accentuated her behind, because if you look at this picture right here, that's what she looks like in the game on the card. They basically thought probably this is a bit too much, so they removed it. But isn't it even more if you remove that and it looks like she's going commando? I don't even know what they were thinking about there, but I know that people have talked about this. Personally, I don't really care at all, like what does it even matter? But so many people have talked about this now that I thought I would at least make a note of it. So there's your note right there. Don't worry, I didn't forget about it, I did notice it. So after that amazing fight with Tsuruno Rocket, or whatever we want to call it, they once again show rather quickly that Iroha's soul gem is darkening, just like they did in the game, but here it's really just a very short shot, and they don't really talk about it. While in the game it was something that was present throughout the entire arc up until now, and they did actually talk about it, and they did give Iroha a grief seed, but she was like, oh no. While in here, they don't even show the grief seed. We don't even know what happened to the grief seed. Someone must have gotten the grief seed, right? Did Yachio just get the grief seed? I assume Yachio got the grief seed, or Tsuruno, either of the two. I was going to say Yachio got the grief seed because Yachio would be a veteran enough to immediately try to get the grief seed as soon as it drops. But Tsuruno got the last hit, so maybe she picked it up instead. Either of the two, definitely not Iroha. So in here, Iroha definitely doesn't have the grief seed, but it's weird that they didn't make a mention of it at all, because it almost seemed like no one picked it up, which is also a bit weird. But I do still think it's better to remove the grief seed from the equation, because in the game it's just so weird that Iroha's soul gem is almost completely black, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna use it when I need it. Like, how could you be in a situation where you need it more than you do now? Well, since this is the spoiler review, and I'm gonna talk about game story as well, we know that this all ends in Iroha almost switching out, and if this wasn't Kamihama, she would have been fucking dead, but because this is Kamihama, she doppels instead, which in the game is like, oh my god, that's so cool that she doesn't turn into a witch, but doppels instead. That's so cool that doppels are a thing. But thinking about it from a writing perspective, it's rather forced that she has a grief seed, but just doesn't use it because whatever, I don't know. She just says, nah, I don't care, I'm gonna use it later. While in the anime, at least, it seems like they're walking a path that might look like it makes more sense, because if we just don't talk about the grief seed, then it makes more sense that she ends up actually overflowing with impurities in the end. But if you had the grief seed, like imagine in the anime, they did show the grief seed, and Iroha was just like, ah, no, and the next episode people see her witching out, or doppling instead, people would have been like, why the fuck did you just not use the grief seed? People would have been really, really mad. So instead of trying to weasel their way out, they could have just removed Candy completely, because if Candy wasn't really there, that also kind of would have lent itself to Iroha just not having a grief seed nearby. While in here they did still have Candy, but they just sort of wrote the grief seed out, which I'm still more happy with, but probably not the best way in general, because now we have the missing grief seed as a plot hole. But I'd rather have a missing grief seed as a plot hole as a grief seed that exists but doesn't get used. So that's that. And after talking about that plot hole though, we keep moving on with Yachio realizing that she missed the time sale, but more importantly, this is also something that really got to me, because in the game she actually did get to benefit from the time sale. She did get to time sale, but in here she misses the time sale because of the witch, and that I think is a pretty big tragedy. But at least she still figures out that timing is really important, and so she heads over to Misuna Shrine at night together with the team, and Mokyu appears. Yeah, Magia for some reason. By the way, if you were wondering why I'm not mentioning the fact that they can jump really high even if they haven't transformed, yeah, we've seen that in Rebellion story already. They can just do that. That's actually nothing new. So Mokyu appears and you're like, oh my god, that's a small cube, isn't that weird? Because in the game, the Mokyu is always there because the Mokyu is the player character, which doesn't really matter because you don't really do anything. You just sit around and get fake choices that don't do anything. So Mokyu appears, doesn't do anything because Mokyu never does anything, and Yachio tells Tsuruno to stay back for safety. It actually makes, I think it makes a bit more sense the way portrayed in the anime. In the game, it felt more like Yachio was just being an asshole in not letting Tsuruno be part of it. But in here, she actually gives a good reason, like, hey, you should probably stay back in case something bad happens, because we don't know what's going to happen. And besides, you're going to write the same name anyway. So Tsuruno stays back, and because she didn't write any name, she has to fight minions while Iroha and Yachio go on to fight the rumor. In the game, Tsuruno just randomly calls out, "You're an idiot, Rumor, come out and fight me." And then the Rumor comes out and fights her, and everyone's like, "Tsuruno, you idiot, you called the Rumor." While in here, it's more like, oh yeah, she didn't write a name, so the Rumor attacks her because she's not following the rules. She's breaking the rules, and therefore the Rumor tries to attack her. That makes a lot more sense. So I like that part a bit better as well. So then they trigger the Rumor, and the last thing we see is Mifuyu, and we see Ui. Some people who are anime only assume that Mifuyu is a dead person and that Ui is also a dead person. Neither of them are dead. They are all both very much alive right now, although Ui is kind of in a really weird spot between life and death, but yeah, she's more alive than dead, so that counts. And they did, from I guess the way they worded the Rumor, I guess a lot of people who saw the episode just kind of assumed it brings back dead people, because of the Rumor, because of the legend that they were talking about, where a dead person is suddenly brought back. But no, the Rumor works with anyone who you have lost or who you only remember from distant memories. So no, Michu isn't dead. He's very much alive. Although she might die later in the anime. I can talk about this right now because this is a spoiler, so who cares? Later on in the game, Mifuyu basically sacrifices herself to stop the Bear Tree Rumor. Yes, the Bear Tree Rumor. She basically sacrifices herself to kill the Rumor after she has redeemed herself. So Mifuyu goes through this entire arc where, in order to save not just herself, but every magical girl in the entire world, she joins the wings of Magius. She does their evil bidding. She gets people involved. She basically advertises for the Magius and gets all her friends to join the wings, and even brainwashes people that don't want to comply. She forces people into it as well. And later on, she then realizes that maybe that's wrong to force people into joining and brainwashing people and also getting people killed. Maybe it's not the best idea to get people killed in order to redeem all magical girls on the planet. Maybe that's not a price that's worth paying. So she redeems herself by subtly helping the protagonists, and then she gets found out, gets imprisoned, and they bust her out of prison, basically. And she says, and they fight a Rumor together. I think it's like the entire Pulamagi Holy Quintet is there. I'm not quite sure there, but there's like 10 magical girls there. They all fight the Bear Tree Uwasa, but the Bear Tree Uwasa is just too powerful. So Mifuyu sacrifices herself. She breaks her own soul gem by overcharging it to defeat the Uwasa, and she's like, "Oh, sorry guys, I'm moving on. I'm dead." But she's actually not dead. The soul gem has like a giant crack through it, and she falls into a coma. But they're like, "Oh, the soul gem isn't completely dead. It's just got a giant crack through it. She's gonna be fine." And then off screen, Iroha just goes, "Oh yeah, I healed Mifuyu's soul gem. I repaired it. She's fine again." And then Mifuyu did nothing else. Like, Mifuyu did nothing else after that in the story, so Mifuyu is completely superfluous to the story at that point. So if Mifuyu does nothing after having been basically resurrected, just kill her. Just kill her. Just fucking kill her, dude. So I'm somewhat certain that if they end up going to that point in chapter 9, it's gonna be in season 2, like maybe in episode 20 or whatever, if we ever get there, that this would happen. They're probably just gonna go through with it and completely kill Mifuyu at that point. So even though Mifuyu is alive right now in the anime, she might be dead later, who knows. The reason also I bring this up is because it's going to be telling right now, moving onward in the anime, what they decide to do with Mifuyu. Because they might have Mifuyu be more evil going forward, and then really commit to this redemption arc that leads to her own death to be more tragic. So I'm just gonna say, watch the next few episodes, what Mifuyu does, especially when Mifuyu keeps appearing more often, and we're gonna see just how the anime decides to handle Mifuyu, because I think we might be able to guess if they really are going to kill her off, depending on what she does in the next few episodes. So yeah, that's the end of the this episode, and I'm gonna go very quickly over the end card later. But first, before I go over the end card, let's talk about just in general what I thought about this episode. Now that we know about all these differences, I think it's really, really good what they did here. The progression compared to the game makes a lot more logical sense. It's a lot more coherent. Stuff follows a reasonable line of action. In the game, it was really just people keep moving around, random stuff happens. People randomly go, "Oh, I'm out of leads right now," and then bam, there's a lead right there that just pops into their head. Like, for example, Iroha is like, "I'm searching for infos on this shrine, but I don't have any infos." And then bam, Tsuruno just appears right in front of her. Then later she has the stamp rally, where she's like, "Oh no, there's 2 different types of stamp rally cards, and I need the second one, but I don't have the second one." And then bam, Yachio just randomly appears. Or, "I don't know where I can find another shrine." And then she just randomly sees a shrine atop a building, which is not the right shrine even. So she goes there, and there's randomly a witch there, where also Yachio appears randomly out of nowhere. It's just one contrived plot point after another, just so many coincidences stacked on top of each other, while people are moving off all around the area all the time. We visit Mitama like 10 different times throughout the story for no reason, because she doesn't really have anything special to add to anything. So it's just complete chaotic random mess in the game. A lot of the story is, not just this chapter, but in the anime they really sat down and they really thought about how do we make sure that everything that happens follows a logical through line, that everything is coherent and makes sense. And they did it. Everything actually does make reasonable sense in the anime, and I like this a lot more. They were able to go through all of the most important plot points that lead to actually finding the Mizuna Shrine as the Seian Shrine, but they still managed to get all of the character moments in. They still managed to introduce Tsuruno in a really good way. They still managed to get Yachio, Tsuruno, and Iroha together as a trio, they're gonna stay as a trio moving forward, and then gonna expand into 4 people and into 5 people, and then we have the team Mikazuki together. So I like this way more. We also see more focus on Iroha basically being lonely and looking for friends. This is not something that came up too often in the game, was something that maybe was hinted at sometimes. The game instead focused the same scenes on hospital scenes, where we see flashbacks to Uitoka and Nemo in the hospital doing stuff, but instead the anime goes, okay, now we've kind of looked at that, we can now move to something different. Let's talk more about our protagonist, about Iroha, and they bring in more about Iroha's backstory about being a loner, because like I said, that doesn't come up very often in the game. So also something is, I talked a lot about all the stuff that happens in the game and how it's very obvious that they were just stretching everything out as long as they can, while in the anime they managed to still condense everything very nicely. It's rather short. This chapter is rather short if you actually condense everything down to the important stuff, and I do like the fact that they managed to actually go through with that, because they didn't need to do that. They could have just had it dragged out throughout how many episodes they needed, and then have season 1 and with chapter 4 ending or whatever, and then been like, let's do 2 or 3 more seasons, let's do 50 episodes or whatever, and drag everything out as long as possible, just like it was in the game. So I'm glad that they did commit to making sure that the integrity of the story is still there with it being shorter. And I think in general this episode absolutely great with how it managed to adapt this. Even if you compare this now to Puella Magi Madoka Magica, the original anime, and you see, okay, it's really not in the same league of quality of writing still as the original Madoka Magica, but with what they were giving, with the chaotic mess that the story in the game is, as an adaptation, this is absolutely amazing. Like, just say, like, if you just showed someone the game and then went, this is what they did with it in the anime, you'd be like, wow, That's actually such a great adaptation that they did here. So even if in the end it might not be as good as the original anime, and it might still have problems with the writing, it might still have plot holes here and there, it might still have stuff being wrong with it in many places. Just as an adaptation, the rise in quality from original content to the original content to what we have now in the anime, the adaptation, is just massive. It's ridiculous. So basically we are at the end of this entire thing. If you want to see more of this, then remember to subscribe and leave a comment if you have anything to talk about. But now that I've said that, I'm gonna go over the end card very quickly. If you're just a North American player and you don't want to get spoiled on some of the characters, I'm gonna talk about the end card now. So go away unless you want to be you're alright with that. So let's look at the end card. The end card is illustrated by the artist behind the Tarte Magica manga, which is not a good manga. Sorry, it's good. I'm just memeing. Masogitsune, and Masogitsune has done this end card where we see all of Magius and Wings of Magius, and I'm going to go through these characters very quickly. In the very back we see Toka and Nemo, of course, being smug and very evil, and looming in the background being scheming, while on the left we see the two sisters, on the left of the two being Tsukasa, the right one being Tsukuyo. They're being held together by this red band of fate that is connecting the two. Actually, it's not even connecting the two, because if you look closely, there's two bands. Each of the bands originates from their flute and then goes back to their own finger. Actually, I thought this entire time the lines go from one finger to the other person's finger, but they don't. The lines stay at the same character. Whatever. Then in the front and center, of course, we have Alina Gray, who is right now actually in the story where NA is not even the most evil character, because right now in NA's story around chapter 7 or chapter 8 actually, Toka and Nemu are like way more evil, because they're like, let's do mass murder, while Alina just wants to do art. It just happens to be art that involves dead people. But in chapter 10, this entire thing flips. Toka and Nemu are suddenly the good guys, and then Alina becomes the most evil character you can probably ever imagine, just wants to kill the entire fucking planet. So that happens. Next to that we have Mifuyu, who I already talked about a little bit, the white girl to the right of that. In the front left corner we have, on the left, Ikumi, and then on the right of that, Ryo, who are also feathers. I think at some point they tried to crush Iroha's soul gem. I forgot which of the two it was. They're actually good guys. They're actually really good guys. And they're together with the person on the right, on the other side of Alina, Shizuku. Yes, if you're an anime only person, Shizuku is a black feather. Not just an associate of a black feather. No, she's a full-blown black feather, but not yet. There's a later event that happens, the whereabouts of the feather, where she does join Magius officially, or the Wings of Magius rather, but then at the end of the event leaves again. So she was a full-blown feather, but only for a little while. On the right of that, we have Yukika and one of the two twins from the Otsukimi event, who I haven't actually read yet, so I don't actually know what's going on there, but I know that at least those two are in Rings of Magius. On the bottom right, we have the Uwasa-san that Nemo created, that is spreading rumors. And the one thing I skipped on the very left, outer edge, two people who, I don't know, they were part of Magius, right? Well, the thing is, they were a bit special, because they actually have a more significant Arc 2 relevance than any other character on this screen, probably. Because these, on the left we have Hagumu, and to the right of that the green haired is Shigure. And after Magius crumbles, they both form the Neo Magius. Wow, Neo Magius, amazing. So yeah, that's the end card. That's a lot of information and a lot of stuff that you could glean. Even if you are an anime only person, you know Toka and Nemu, so seeing them in the background of what seems to be a rather ominous group of people that wear cultist robes. Like, you have people looking rather evil and scheming with cultist robes, and they're on the throne sitting behind them. Even if you're an anime only person, that's gonna give you ideas that, oh my god, they're evil. Which is completely on the mark. They're completely evil. So that's a spoiler. Even if you're an NA only person, you already know most of this stuff, but you still get spoiled on some stuff. For one thing, you know all these other characters that are new to you, like on the very left, the Neo Magias, on the very right, the Otsukimi people. On the bottom left, you have Ikumi and Ryo from the Whereabouts of the Feathers, who you now also know are part of Magius. You know that Shizuku either was Magius or becomes Magius later on. So yeah, NA got spoiled on that as well. Personally, I don't give a shit about spoilers. I'm someone who's always like, you can spoil me anything, I don't really care, because if a story is good, this is the thing, guys. If a story is well written, it doesn't matter what is spoiled. If you spoil someone that Darth Vader is Luke's father, for example, or you spoil them that, oh, both Death Stars get blown up. If you spoil someone all of those plot points, you could spoil someone all plot points in Star Wars, they would still watch Star Wars and be so goddamn entertained. Because the entertainment that comes from watching the story just cannot be destroyed with plot twists. And I think it's the same with Pura Magi Madoka Magica. If you told someone the plot twist at episode 3, the plot twist with Homura, it would still be a 10 out of 10 anime that people would enjoy deeply. Because the story works without having to rely on plot twists. If you have a story that needs plot twists to work, it's a shit story, okay? So I'm always on the fence that I don't really care about spoilers, but I know that a lot of other people care about spoilers, so I like protecting myself against backlash by always saying, okay, this is spoiler, this is not spoiler, and trying to keep away spoilers from people who don't want the spoilers. But yeah, that's basically my stand on this. This is why I'm doing this whole spoiler thing, because I know that other people care, not because I care about spoilers. So yeah, that's that. Now we're really at the end of this. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Remember to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe.